Good morning, everyone. We are kicking the morning off with a discussion about the highly anticipated film, Black Panther. My name is Naja Parker, and I'm a content producer with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I am joined by the fabulous Ernie Suggs. Introduce yourself to everyone.
Good morning, and thanks for having me today. My name is Ernie Suggs. I'm a reporter at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I also do the AJC Sepia page. I cover race and culture, so this movie hits me at all the places that me at. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
As am I, and we promise not to give away any spoilers.
Are you going to be able to contain yourself?
I think I can. It's going to be difficult, but we're just going to really talk about the impact the film has had leading up to the release date, which is today. So let's just get everything started. What is all the hype about, you think?
I think all the hype about Black Panther is that it's particularly amongst, well, there are two things. First of all, it's a Marvel comic. So it continues in that Marvel universe. So it's a continuation. It's a piece of a puzzle, of a larger puzzle. But specifically for African Americans, it is something that we've never seen before. It's a concept of Africa. It's a concept of blackness. It's a concept of Afrofuturism that we haven't been this excited about, I don't think, ever for a movie. So I think it's just that we finally get to see a black superhero. Well, I shouldn't say finally, because we have had versions of black superheroes before, but to have a big budget movie, to have millions of dollars invested in this movie, to have an all-black cast starring in this movie is just like, black people have just lost their minds over the last 6 months, just waiting for this movie to come out. So the hype, I think, is real, and I think it's going to live up to the hype.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And if you have any comments or suggestions, thoughts or questions, please drop them down in the comment box below, and we'll try our best to get to them. I agree with everything you just said about it representing Afrofusion and just black culture in a way that we've never seen it before. People have been saying that they're happy to see this type of representation because usually when we're portrayed on the big screen, it's maybe through slavery or stereotypical figures that don't represent the culture like Black Panther is doing.
And you make a great point about slavery. We had like a 5-year period with 12 Years a Slave, Django Unchained, The Help. Movies like that which were good movies, but they show black people in a certain way. And I think we're, coming out of the Obama administration, going into the Trump era, this is kind of a breath of really, really strong fresh air to say, okay, we've come out of Django, we've come out of 12 Years a Slave. Again, these were good movies, but this is a whole different thing. We have a whole black culture. We have a whole black cast. We have that's showing us a whole black culture of a black man running an empire or running a kingdom, and how that, kind of reflects on us, how we see ourselves in that role, how we see ourselves in Prince T'Challa, how we see ourselves as African Americans, as Africans. So I think that this movie, it comes at a perfect time for us as a people, and I think it comes at a perfect time for us as Americans.
I would agree with everything you said once again.
Okay.
I think that this movie is a great time to kind of bridge the gap between African American culture as well as African culture, because a lot of times we remove ourselves from that. A lot of us have never been back to Africa. We're not really familiar with how they move and what their customs and their just overall way of life is. And I think that this is a great bridge between the two, not to reveal anything, but it kind of dives into what the difference is between the African American culture and just the African culture altogether.
And I think, look at the way you're dressed. I've never seen you in a beautiful.
As you, loving
I wear this every day.
I missed it.
Oh, and I didn't show you my necklace.
Oh, wait a minute now. No. I really like that.
You like this?
Do you have another that I may be able to borrow?
No, this is it.
Darn, I guess I have to take that one.
Yeah. But no, cut that part. But okay, you talk about like how us as African Americans have kind of embraced this. But I went to the movies last night to see it. I went to, and I'm sure you're gonna probably ask this question, but I went to see it at Atlantic Station.
Yeah.
Every theater, every screen at Atlantic Station was showing Black Panther, and every theater was a group, like a Hampton group or a Tuskegee group or some school group or some group of women or whatever. I saw kids dressed as like Black Panthers, the traditional Black Panthers, but also saw everyone dressed in African clothes, dashikis, necklaces, dresses. Everyone's just looking beautiful. It almost kind of reminded me of, I don't remember this either, but I know you don't remember. But like, like Muhammad Ali fights back in the day when everybody would go to a Muhammad Ali fight with their, gowns on and fur coats on and everything like that. And I think that last night was an example of just us coming together as a race, almost as a race, to say, okay, we have pride in Africa. Yeah. We want to see ourselves as Africans. And we're going to show out. And I think people showed out last night. And I think tonight is just going to be bananas all over the country.
And it was trending on Twitter all last night. Black Panther was trending. Wakanda was trending, which is the African nation. Wakanda Forever was trending. People were posting their outfits and their African patterns. Yeah. One guy I saw on Twitter, he had this kind of khaki-like coat with this lion drape.
Was that a Zamunda
That's
outfit? Okay.
what people were calling it. So people really are showing out, and they're coming out in droves. And I like what you said about people coming into groups, because people have been thinking about this movie for months. There have been a lot of social media campaigns surrounding it. Yeah. One example is the Black Panther challenge, where people were purposely campaigning and raising money to make sure that Black children or children of color have an opportunity to go see this movie for free.
Yeah, I mean, thousands, you're right, thousands, probably millions of Black kids who wouldn't have had an opportunity to go to the movies are going for free because of people, adults like us, who are so excited that they want to share this experience with kids, and kind of let this be a learning thing for kids, to kind of show kids that, we don't have to, our cultural images don't have to be drugs or rap, or nothing's wrong with rap. I'm not saying anything's wrong with rap, but this is a whole different kind of way to present ourselves.
Exactly.
And I think people are trying to express that by having these, events where they're bringing thousands and thousands of kids to see the movie. I saw tons of kids last night. I'm sure you saw them when you saw it. Kids just out there just going to see Black Panther.
And did you see that one video that went viral about the Academy in Atlanta? And they surprised the kids with free tickets. Did you see how hyped they were? They were dancing and singing.
I'm glad that my video wasn't up when I got my ticket. I was the same way.
You didn't want to show us your dance moves, your excitement?
I was the same way, because I'm very, I'm obviously from a generation that kind of grew up in the 70s and 80s reading comic books. So I've kind of known all about Black Panther all my life, because I read comic books all the time. And Black Panther, traditionally, to be honest, he is not probably the most popular, or he wasn't perhaps the most popular Black, character. We had Luke Cage, we had Storm, who were probably more popular. Black Panther, I think, was an acquired taste. He wasn't around a lot. He was in Fantastic Four. He was in the Avengers for a little while. He had his own book a while ago. Ta-Nehisi Coates recently, right before the movie, revised the title. So this right here is kind of bringing Black Panther to the masses. Right. Chadwick Boseman. I hope I'm not talking too much. Fine. Chadwick Boseman, who's Chadwick Boseman played Thurgood Marshall.
Oh God.
He plays like James Brown.
He is fabulous. For a minute, I thought he was just going to be the king of the biopics. But, which is nothing wrong with that at all. I appreciate. Yeah.
I think he's signed to play me in a movie.
What? When is that coming out?
23.
Okay. We'll be looking out for that one for sure.
But he's the perfect person to play this.
Right.
And there was a talk and when we talk about Black superheroes, one of the first major motion picture superheroes was kind of Blade. And Wesley Snipes, and he was like the vampire, and that's also a Marvel character. So that's kind of like one of the first Marvel movies people don't really think about, was Blade. And there was a lot of talk about him playing Blade, or him playing Black Panther, like in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
But it never came about. But I think right now we're in the perfect time. Chadwick Boseman is the perfect person to play it. And I think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, great time.
And if you're just now joining us, I'm Naja Parker, and this is Ernie Suggs. We are having a great discussion about Black Panther, the highly anticipated film that hit theaters today, or really last night.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned a little bit of the history about the comic books. It first came out in the 1960s, about 3 months before the Black Panther Party movement. Why do you think it took more than 50 years for it to finally make it to the big screen?
Well, I think that, there was, and this is just me talking, I haven't studied this, but I think there was a lot of problems with making superhero movies, especially like 60s and 70s. You look at things like Captain America, the Fantastic Four. Before the ones that we see now came out, there were other ones that came out, and they were horrible. They were just horrible movies. Ryan, who was our producer, has probably seen some of those movies. They were just really bad. and I think that once kind of like Blade came about, Batman came about, those kind of movies, that kind of changed the trajectory of superhero movies. Why it took so long for Black Panther to come out, I don't know. I don't know if it had anything to do with Wesley Snipes or with if he was able to get the movie going, or if he had the power or the willpower. Or, as I said, Black Panther was not a major Marvel character.
Right.
I mean, he was a good character, but he was not, he was not the Hulk or Captain America, Iron Man. So I could see in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s where there would not be any kind of insistence that we needed to have a Black Panther on the screen. I think now with the Marvel Universe and with that Marvel Universe expanding so much, and there's so many characters in the Marvel Universe in the movie versions of them, that Black Panther is kind of a natural. And he started in Captain America.
Right.
And he was kind of a background figure, so that's kind of how he was in the comic books. And he was a background figure that was able to burst out into his own movie, into his own franchise. And hopefully, we're going to see more of him and Wakanda and, all the women.
I definitely think so.
Yeah.
And to mention about the comic books, it's not just a Black film. It has a lot of African, Black ideals in it, but it's also a Marvel film, so it's almost like we're exposing our culture to the masses for people who are comic book lovers. And it just doesn't touch on race, it also touches on classism, it touches on gender roles,
feminism,
which I really love. The women, as we know, are super powerful in the film.
You're a strong Black woman. You went to
Spelman College,
which she says every time we do a
Spelman
podcast
College.
or Facebook Live together, she has to mention
located right here in Atlanta, Georgia, the #1 HBCU in the country. Thank you for asking.
You told me to ask you. But what did you think about the women in the film? Because the women play a major role in this film.
I aspire, is what I can say. Like, I aspire to be just like these women. They weren't in traditional roles. They weren't in the kitchen. They weren't cooking and cleaning, taking care of the kids. They were the backbone of the Wakanda nation. And that's something that I really appreciated, and I had never seen portrayed in film or TV before, like ever.
Well, do you think, and we're trying not to commit any spoilers or anything, but you said the backbone of the Wakanda nation. Do you think that translate into kind of like how the Black woman in America is kind of like has been the backbone of who we are as a people?
Ooh, that's good, Ernie. I hadn't thought of it that way before, but now that you mentioned it, absolutely. Like thinking about just the women in my life, my mom, my auntie, my cousins, and just the role that they play in our family, making sure everything is running as it should. Absolutely, they're the backbone.
Yeah, and one of the things, and hopefully this is not a spoiler, but as you mentioned, the women play a significant role in Prince T'Challa's life.
Right.
All of his people are women, basically, and so that's a very important thing, I think. And it just shows a different side of superheroes and a different side of comics and different side of movies. And like you said, this movie, because it's part of the Marvel Universe, I was listening to a podcast yesterday that they're predicting $150 million this weekend alone. And if it stays, #1 for a month, it could be $1 billion within a month. So this is like huge.
It's huge.
We've never seen anything. I think the last time I was this excited about a film, obviously, you have the Star Wars films, which I'm not a huge Star Wars person. Actually, I've never seen Star Wars until I was an adult.
Okay, same.
But the Star Wars films have a lot of hype, obviously. But I think in terms of the Black community, there hasn't been this kind of hype. And Ryan, who's our producer, can probably challenge me on this, since Malcolm X, which came out in 1992. And there was all this excitement about Malcolm X. And for me, as a Black college student, there was a lot of excitement about school days because I was in college and, I knew a lot of people. I went to a Black college. But I've never, ever seen anything like this before in my life in terms of what people want out of Black Panther. And I think there's also this aspirational, these aspirational goals that the movie has. Everyone wants the movie to be good. Everyone is anticipating the movie to be good. Everyone's kind of hoping and praying. I saw some stuff on Facebook a couple of months ago that said that if Black Panther is not good, we're still going to say it's good.
I saw that too.
Because it needs to be good.
Pride.
But, and I saw it last night, and you saw it Tuesday. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't disappoint. It hits on all the points. It hits on all the marks. And I just can't wait to see it again.
Yeah. And once again, if you're just joining us, we are having a discussion about Black Panther, which is out in theaters today. If you have any comments, thoughts, suggestions, anything you want to mention, just drop them all down in the comments below.
Well, let me ask you a question. How do you think, you saw the movie, you saw the hype, how do you think, and you are kind of, on the forefront of culture, how do you think this is going to change Black representation in film and black filmmaking?
I
Or will it change it?
I hope that it does.
Okay.
I think this is a really, really good start because it's not just about who is in front of the camera. It's also about who's behind the camera.
Yeah.
So interviews that I've been reading or just watching, they've talked about how one of the people at Marvel is a black man, and he was responsible for even bringing this, to the spotlight. And I really appreciate that. So representation really does matter in a variety of different ways. And even Ryan Coogler, who's the director, he brought in folks to do the costume design, the music, the editing, just every aspect of making this film had a hand from a black person in it. And I think that's really, really important. And if we can just kind of keep up this momentum, hopefully we'll see this happen in future films and in other television shows as well. And I think the sales will be able to back it up. But I guess my question for you is, we have had films about or films with a largely black cast before, and they've done really well in the box office. Why does the hype kind of die down, or why is that not good enough of a...
Well, I think that we always have to prove ourselves. There's always this talk about black films don't sell overseas. Obviously, it's hard to get. Spike Lee's one of the greatest directors we've had. It's hard for him to get a movie made these days. But I do think that the Marvel Universe kind of, I won't say save this movie, but the Marvel Universe helps.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, it's part of a puzzle. It's part. You can't be a fan of the Marvel Universe and skip Black Panther. Yeah, it has to be. There are clues. There were clues in Civil War.
Right.
There are clues in Black Panther about what's going to happen next. So you got to, So to answer your question, I do think that this is going to kind of be a movie that's going to change how we see things. Even the previews last night, there was A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh, nice.
Which is the Ava DuVernay's new movie, which is a
Right.
big budget film. I think she's the first black woman to have like $100 million budget
Go
film.
Ava.
So yeah, so I think that there will be some hints, but we will, as you know, there have been black movies that have been made before, and we've had this hype before, and it dies down after a while. I don't think there were any. I think a couple years ago there were a lot of black people nominated for Academy Awards.
Yeah.
And I don't think there were any nominated this past year. I'm not sure about that. So I think we're going to have to start going on these cycles. So hopefully, Black Panther will break some cycle and help us keep some of that momentum. I'm not sure if it's going to be nominated for any Academy Awards for acting or whatever. Maybe for costumes and music and things like that, sound design, all that stuff. But I think that this is the kind of movie, if there is going to be a test case for what we can do going forward, Black Panther is definitely it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
So what should we be doing? Do we have a question?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Okay, great.
So a lot of people are saying that they can't wait to see it. And we have a question from Stephanie who wants to know if you think there's any merit to the petition that demanded that some of the millions the movie is making should go back into black communities.
Oh, that's a great question.
I'm going to be very apolitical on this and say no. I mean, I just think that, I think that sometimes we expect too much out of black art. We don't ask that of rappers. We don't ask that of baseball players. And, so, I mean, I think that, yes, this is going to be a $150 million movie this weekend. And I don't know, maybe Ryan Coogler can give a little money or Marvel can give him money, but I don't think there should be some kind of mandate that, because this is a black movie and because black people are excited to see it and if black people are going to make Marvel richer than it already is, that Marvel should give money to. And that's just me.
And I'll add to that, I recently saw an interview featuring Chadwick Boseman. He was asked a similar question, and his answer was no. And he said, sometimes I think the art is enough. Art, you don't have to always give back to the culture through money. You give back to the culture by what you represent and what you bring to the culture. And the fact that we've already had dozens of campaigns just to help people go see the movie is a move in itself.
And I think this also, you mentioned, you touched on something there. There's also this whole awareness, because I think yesterday and today, black people in America feel good.
Ooh, pride.
I think we haven't felt this way since, Barack Hussein Obama was in the office, So I think that, there's this whole week of everyone just feeling good and feeling excited and smiling and dressing beautifully like yourself today. I think that that's kind of a contributing to the culture. It's contributing to our communities that, that's making us say, okay, we can do better. We can aspire to be something. We can plan trips to Africa. We can do things like that. But as far as just having a petition and giving 25% or 10% to communities or programs. You know, I don't think that should be a requirement.
Yeah. And that reminds me of another hashtag, What Black Panther Means to Me, was one of the hashtags trending on Twitter. And it just talked about how important the film was, how good it made people feel, how the movie will be around forever. So that means generations even after us will get a chance to see themselves on the TV screen.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't felt this good coming out of a movie in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't feel good coming out of Malcolm X because, a spoiler, he got killed.
Oh, darn. Why'd you tell me, Ernie? I had no clue at all.
But I mean, I felt really good coming out of this movie. Just like, you know, I felt really good to be black.
Right.
I felt really good to be a descendant of Africans, you know. I wore my dashiki today.
Yes.
And for all you, I'm wearing this every day for the rest of the year.
Okay.
So where do we go now? Where do you, I mean, you seen the movie, you're going to go see it again?
Oh, I'm going again Saturday.
There was a Spelman group last night.
Oh, really? Nice. I didn't know that. Okay.
There was a Spelman group, yeah.
Well, I'll be seeing the movie again. I'll be sure to make sure I'm, you know, paying attention to all the different kind of black mediums there are out there. You know, Marvel isn't the only place we can go to see black people portrayed on the big screen. You can do it by watching web series, by listening to podcasts, by making sure you're supporting your favorite authors. It's just a constant reminder to support those people who support us. Yeah, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
I mean, you make a great point. There's a lot of black art out there that's really, really good. And podcasts, on Netflix, black movies.
And visual art. You know, we just got portraits.
Exactly. Yeah.
About Barack Obama and Michelle Obama.
And what do you think about those?
Beautiful. They're outstanding, and it's a great time, like you said earlier.
Yeah. I think they're gorgeous. I would love to have a print of them.
Same.
So there was one question I was going to ask you. Do you think, without spoiling anything? Well, this is what I was going to ask. One of the great things about it was that we had a lot of Africans. Actors, a lot of British black actors that we haven't seen before. I mean, Chadwick Boseman is obviously an American, playing an African. Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, and they're Americans. But we had a lot of really, really faces that we had never seen before. I really, I don't know her name, but I really liked T'Challa's sister.
Letitia Wright.
Okay, so is she British? She's American?
She is British.
Okay.
I think she's about maybe 24 or 25 years old, and this is her first huge film like this.
Yeah. So I think it made a lot of stars out of a lot of people. And I think
then Daniel Kaluuya, who was in Get Out, who was also a UK star, came back to the US for this.
Yeah. So I think it's, you know, it's going to expose you to a lot of actors you probably haven't seen before who are really, really good. The acting in the movie is splendid. You got Queen Angela Bassett and King Forrest Whitaker in it. You know, you can't go wrong with any movie with those two in it. And Chadwick Boseman, who is like, you know, the Denzel Washington of your generation.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to have him as a part of the generation.
So yeah, it's going to be good. I mean, we've seen it. We don't want to spoil anything.
We're not going to do it. And just to wrap this thing up, do you have like any last thoughts about the film or black culture and just anything surrounding it?
Well, I would say go see it, but I know everyone's going to go see it.
They're probably there now.
Yeah, they're probably. I saw someone, I posted, I got to work in like 15 minutes today. So I tweeted, did all the black people take the holiday off? Because this is a holiday.
Yeah, it really is.
This is a holiday.
And then it's Black History Month.
I know, so everything, this is like perfect. Ryan's over there smiling and laughing. He was at the premiere. So I'm excited. I just hope everyone else is excited. I hope you're going to get there and see it many times as you can. I mean, I think this is a movie also for comic book nerds and Marvel nerds to kind of see multiple times, because there's always these little clues and hints and things you perhaps have missed. And I'm pretty sure that and one other thing, there's always a stereotype about, you go to black movies and it's always loud and people are talking and, shouting. But last night there was so much respect for the movie. In the theater, it was like quiet as a mouse in the whole thing. There was a couple of laughs because the movie is funny as well. So there were a couple of obvious laughs. For those of us in Atlanta, there were a couple of obvious nods to Atlanta in the movie. Right, because it was filmed here. Yeah, it was filmed here in Atlanta. Parts. Yeah, but people gave this movie the utmost respect. It was quiet as a church mouse in the theater. Yeah. And because we just wanted to kind of be there, and everyone was just so engaged in the film, so engaged in the story, so engaged in the colors and seeing Africa from a different light and just seeing strong, just thriving Africans thriving and not depending on white people and refusing to be colonized. It was just an amazing event. It was, and again, we went into this movie hoping it was going to be good. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. It was an amazing movie.
My mother, she's going to go see it this week. Well, today, actually. What's funny is she texted me yesterday and she said, can you get me tickets for 2 o'clock tomorrow? She did not specify the movie. I was like, Mom, Black Panther? She was like, yes, for me and your auntie. So I got on Fandango and hooked her up with 2 tickets, and she's going to be watching the film in Memphis at 2 o'clock.
Okay, Memphis,
So
you had to buy movies from Atlanta? You had to buy tickets from Atlanta to Memphis?
I don't mind, because she's the love of my life, and I do anything for her. So
yeah.
whatever she wants, she got it. But
did you
oh my God, Wakanda, I did.
You just did this.
Wakanda forever. Well, we're gonna go ahead and
we
head
gotta
out.
do the thing.
I don't know how to do it.
They were just like boom, boom, boom.
Okay, I can do that. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, that's Wakanda forever. Once again, I'm Naja Parker, and this is Ernie Suggs. Thank you so much for joining us for our discussion on Black Panther.
Go see
Thank you.
it.
Have a good day.